Alright, so today we're going to do something a little different. Instead of doing custom puzzles, we're just going to do the regular puzzles. So these will be timed and rated, and depending on how long they take, I'll do between 3 and 5. So this is my current rating. You can see the timer here. So looking at White's King in particular, since there's a pretty obvious take on h2 with several of our pieces, I notice that this bishop is currently unprotected and that our knight is hanging. And there's some tension here. So those are the themes for this puzzle. Well, the first thing I'm going to look at is, of course, going to be one of these two moves, because there are definitely cases when we can take, and let's say like play bishop g1 and have a mating idea, but also be threatening to maybe take on f2 and save our knight, which looks pretty strong. So what's after bishop g1? You can't take that bishop because they're still mate. You can't take the knight because they're still mate. And otherwise we're taking on f2, and the rook is forced to recapture because this is a fork. I think that's just the solution, so I'm just going to go for it. And then take the queen. Alright, not a very highly rated puzzle. Target time is supposed to be 20 seconds, so if as I'm explaining these things, there's no way I'm going to hit this target time. But yeah, that was a fun little idea. Next puzzle. So there are some themes involved with this square and with maybe opening the rook. For instance, it's possible that we can play a move like just bishop e6 so that we can threaten to take here. And it's really hard for black to deal with that. The pawn is pinned, these pieces are all out of play, and it would even take them a while to find their way to the king side, whereas this is an immediate threat. I also thought of this move because it does open up the rook potentially to cut off the file at the very least. Could help with checkmating ideas. So, should we just do this? I don't see a sacrifice. Oh, that's check. I didn't see that move. That's actually a very important move to see. Okay, so I got a little lucky there. I totally overlooked the fact that this is forked. So definitely don't step to king h1 and lose your bishop. Then you lose all of your attacking potential. So it looks like I will probably do all 5 of these, considering how fast these are going. So here I should feel some urgency. I think it's very close for black to get mated. Like, the purpose of this move, to me, appears to be some sort of idea associated with queen f6 and then being able to play this pawn forward, which we weren't able to do a second ago as white because of the pin. So actually black is in a very urgent situation with some checkmate threats. And so like I don't think a move like this would help very much if white can just play rook to b8, which looks like we're getting mated somehow. So what do we do instead? We could play a move like d5 as a defensive move. The idea is to open up here. White has a hard time taking that without allowing queen takes. Or, well, yeah, so this is an idea. Also an idea is just to play c5 and shut down that pawn. But then after rook b8, it's still very, very sketchy, right? Like, how do we defend this bishop? And even if we play here, if rook b8 and takes, there's queen blocking, which would be okay. If we go here, white does have check though. I had noticed that we covered this checking square, but we opened up a completely new checking square. Here. And then rook b8 threatens queen to g7 mate. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. So, what are my other options? Definitely taking more time on this puzzle than on the previous puzzles. We'll reserve our calculations of d5 for a second, because I think I'm not satisfied after this variation. Do we have any checks? We do have this check, but even if we get what we want, which is to get the queen in, it seems like white can just step back here. We have no entry. We do have some idea actually with knight here, which I totally overlooked, because maybe we can get some sort of fork. So check. If takes, check. King can't step back here. King can't step here. If king steps over here, then we probably do have queen check. And if king comes here, then we're going to have some sort of queen check like this. That's looking very strong. So, if here, 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 again though we have this check. That's actually, okay, so this rook e1 idea, which I'd kind of written off, but once I saw that it's associated with this idea, it seems that if white takes it, it's working. So what if white doesn't take? But if white goes here, it's the same thing. So this is just working. It's a check. Okay. Yeah, that was a really interesting puzzle. It's like if that were to happen in your game as white, that's just really unfortunate geometry, because that's out of nowhere. So, interesting puzzle. Alright, next one. Well, the first thing to notice is that if white were to get another move, they can either go here and trap our queen, or even consider going here, which is check, and potentially taking here. Which suggests that that our next move is pretty forcing, and maybe that it's moving this bishop. Moving the bishop pins the knight, prepares f4, gets out of this discovered attack. By pinning the knight, we do also get rid of this idea, because we can just take that now. But again, it's hard for white to break that pin, because, okay, let's say you go here, you can just take the knight. And if you go here to add protection, you still play f4. So if we play here and rook takes, we just take the knight. So and then the question is, do we take this? No, right? We just go here. Okay, so far so good. Maybe we can actually break into 2800. Alright, this one seems like it's a simpler puzzle in terms of material. That doesn't mean it's going to be easier. So, alright, so question 1. Is this just threatening mate on this square? I mean, okay, that question has an easy answer. The better question is, how does black stop the mate that we're threatening here? The king can't move. The rook can't stop that. So the only move that I see after here is some knight defense. Sorry, to cover this square. But in the event, let's say the more natural one first, to go here. In the event of knight defense, I have a secondary checkmate threat, because now we're covering these squares, this square in particular, and then this will become a threat. So here, 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 and then if the rook comes back, this square is covered again, so we can come over with the rook check, and at least win the rook. Oh, that's still mate. So that looks really strong. And it should be the same thing for knight coming to the other square. No. What am I missing? What am I missing? Is this not a checkmate threat? Oh, I may be missing this check. That's silly of me. I forgot to see that black has a threat of check. Okay, well, that kind of oversight can happen more easily when you're under time pressure, so I won't beat myself up about it. Instead, I'll just try to find the right move now, knowing that the first move that we played was correct. So since we now have some feeling that check is happening, now that this knight is gone, we can just come back and win the rook. Okay, that's a bit unfortunate. But this was kind of fun. I think that I haven't done these timed puzzles in a long time. Maybe I'll do these for a little while and see if we can hit some rating peaks. I do believe I've been over 2800 before. And of course, anytime you break into a new level of hundreds, feels very good. So let's set our sights on 2800, and then if things go well, maybe higher.